So 15 minutes a day experiment. This is how I'm going to gain 22 hours of a new skill every 90 days. So 15 minutes a day does not sound like much. I know most of us fritter that away multiple times over on social media. You may, I don't know what other random habits you have, but making your morning cup of coffee or whatnot. But what I wanted to do was implement tiny habits into my routines. Welcome to the Stacking Habits Podcast with your hosts, David, Matthew, and Caleb. Our mission each week is to dig into the habits, rituals, and routines of guests who are living life to the fullest. But remember, knowledge without action is worthless. So be sure to take what you hear and put it into practice. Turn these words into works in your own life. Without further ado, let's dive in. We have a fun, however long this turns into, in front of us. We are doing a self-proclaimed random show. So we're borrowing a page out of the Tim Ferriss playbook. But we typically interview guests. Our guests speak for anywhere from 70 to 75% of the time, which is awesome. We bring on some incredible people and we get to hear their stories. And you as the listener typically want to hear their story. They're the expert in their domain. We're going to flip it around. We're doing, we call it an internal sode. And it's just going to be the three of us, me, Matthew, David. And we're bringing back our old playbook. So we used to do books and bourbon. So if you're watching on YouTube, we'll be sipping some bourbons as well. And so the longer the show goes, the more truthful things will get said. So if this is not your thing, you'd rather hear a guest, just fast forward to the end, maybe listen to the last 10 minutes, and I'm sure you'll hear something worth listening to. So there is no real format. We'll kind of break into what we're drinking here. And each of us prepared a few notes. Some of them are habit related. Some of them are reflections based on 2023. The three of us founded a software company together and sold that. So our experience is in the book selling space, in tech, and mostly we just love business. And so we're just gonna spitball on a couple topics, bounce from each of us, and see where this thing goes. So you guys ready?
Let's do it. So what are you drinking first, Caleb?
I've got Weller Green Label Special Reserve. They give this out like candy in Ohio. And so I've got some friends over there. I go across the border to see family and I can score that. And somebody actually picked this up for my birthday. So thank you. I think it's Cody. Either Cody or Trevor. They each got me a bottle and I forget which one was which, but whichever one that was, thank you.
Nice. What about you, David?
I'm actually drinking whiskey, compliments or courtesy of Bill Martin.
Oh, he really splurged on that one, didn't he?
Well, yeah. So I actually I think I might have had a sip of this, but this is pretty much the same level the bottle's been for the last, when was that? A year and a half ago?
When did he give it to you? It was an event?
It was the podcast episode he and I did at
my
place. Yeah. That was I think summer of 2022, I want to say, which, yeah, I think it was about a year and a half ago. So it's been sitting up in my cupboard because it doesn't actually fit in any of my shelves. So
you don't have any custom bourbon shelves like Caleb does?
Sure.
Not yet.
Oh, hey.
There it is.
Perfect.
There it is. Well, whiskey doesn't go bad. Unfortunately, it does not age in the bottle. And so it's not getting better, but it certainly isn't getting worse.
Nice. Well, mine had dust on it. I just cleaned off, so I haven't had this for a while, but I'm doing the just Whistle Pig 10-year. I've only had a few glasses of this, but I've liked it a lot. I had it, I think, on one of our very first books and bourbon. I haven't really had it since then. So
I believe that is out of Vermont. And Whistle Pig is a brand you often see, even if they're cleared out of all the other allocated stuff. There's usually a $300 or $400 bottle of some kind of Whistle Pig, 15, 18.
I know, something sitting up there.
Sitting on the shelves.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's must be overpriced or no one knows the name, but you see it everywhere. Yeah. I think it's fine. I'm not the biggest connoisseur. I just like whiskey.
I like their 10-year. I haven't tried anything past 10-year, but I did not I forget which year it was. Whatever normal one you see on the shelves everywhere, I did not like that one near as much as his 10-year one. I forget what year that one is, though, that you see all over the place. But
before we
cheers,
drink,
guys, wherever my camera
real
is.
Real quick. Well, here, let's drink and I'll tell you a funny story. Yeah, cheers. You guys may not know this about me, but I had about a decade-long period where I did not drink whiskey, and it was due to overindulgence in my early 20s. And every time that I smelled or tasted whiskey after, I couldn't stomach it. That being said, Caleb, you're like really big into whiskeys and bourbons. And so, of course, whenever I hung out with you and when you brought me onto the team, like you sent me this really nice bottle. And the first thing that went to my mind was like, I was like, oh my God, this is going to take a lifetime to finish this bottle. Because like, I was not a big drinker back then, or a big drinker of bourbon. So I will say I'm no longer repulsed by whiskey or bourbon. Thanks to you guys. I've now rewired my mind to have positive associations with it. So thank you for that. Cheers to that.
So we've rewired a habit. We'll bring it right back to habits immediately. I don't know if this is a good habit or a bad habit. That'll be up to you to be the judge of.
I think it's a little bit of both.
All right, Caleb, I was telling David this before we started recording, but I was thinking I want to share 2 videos with you guys for some icebreakers to get us started. I figured out you can share the audio, so you guys should be able to hear the audio and see the video. Are you up for some icebreaker videos?
Yes, please.
All right, this first one might get us canceled, so I want to start off with the right one.
Oh, God.
This is in the vein of habits and self-care, and you guys heard a lot about ice baths, and so this is right up in that alley right here. So let me play it. Tell me if you can hear the audio when I play this.
I feel like everyone would have survived the Titanic if they'd known about the Wim Hof method. Like if they just focused on slow breathing and mindful.
It would have been weird to think if Wim Hof was on the Titanic, he would have actually just been swimming around.
Yeah, he would have been in the water already.
Yeah, he would have been having a great time. This is nice. This is nice. I like it.
It's enjoyable. We have the beer after and so on.
What people forget is that there was a point during the mass freezing of the passengers of the Titanic where they were actually healthier.
Yeah.
Before they froze to death. There would have been a rush of the benefits of an ice bath.
So they would have, you're right. They would have gotten healthier for a bit and then died.
Oh my gosh.
What's the statute of limitations on laughing? It's been over 100 years, so we're allowed to laugh.
I think you're allowed to laugh, right?
I think it's calculated by how many deaths there were. So it's like, I think it's a year for every 5 deaths or something like that. We may have to axe this whole segment out.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree with that.
You tend to agree. No, this is what's going to make the show. All right.
I don't know.
I've got
We're
one more video for
death threats and hate mail, if that's what we want. Like, no news is bad news, right?
All right, one more video for you guys. This is I've been thinking about this for a while, but couldn't figure out a good way to put it into words. And I saw this video. I was like, this is exactly what I've been thinking. But he was able to describe it in a way I have not been able to. So listen to this and then just give me your kind of unfiltered thoughts on this topic. It's not a funny video. This is more of just related to kind of habits and learning from people. All right. I'm going to try the audio again. Let me know if you guys can hear it.
The reason that you should stop taking advice from super successful people. I'd noticed that there's a trend of people who've made it explaining how work-life balance is actually what's most important and how you can't be powered by resentment or a sense of insufficiency. And it's a failure, I think, on the part of the guru to understand that the tools you need to get from 0 to 50 are not the same that you need to get from 90 to 95. It's also a basic failure of memory. When you look at what got that person to where they are, it's precisely the traits that they're now castigating. Almost everybody has more pain and resentment and fear in the beginning, which is why they all use it. And once you've achieved enough success and validation from the world to not be fueled by that anymore, that's great. That doesn't mean that people who are just starting out can achieve the success that you now have by using strategies which you only accessed after becoming successful. A much better way to do it if you're looking at someone is not to listen to what they're saying, but to look at what they did when they were at the same stage as you.
That is Chris Williamson from the Modern Wisdom podcast. But when I want to hear you guys' thoughts, just generally on that gurus are sometimes saying things that are not actually helpful to people getting started because they have a failure of memory from what actually got them to where they are. Do you guys think that's accurate with a lot of gurus or not?
I went a slightly different place with it. That's a good question. Let me stick a pin in that. Where my mind goes, I actually had this conversation this week in a coffee shop with my sister-in-law and her husband and her. They're in their mid-30s, just like I am, and talking about money. And money's very difficult to talk about. And I said, I'm happy to be a resource. I'll share my numbers. I'll share any of my wisdom. I don't really care to, hide that. But the thing that they're struggling with, or her husband is struggling with, my brother-in-law, is he's comparing himself at, let's call it 35, to his parents that are 60. And they're farmers. They've done very, very well for themselves. And the amount of assets and income and wealth that they've accumulated by the time they're 60 is very different than where my brother and sister-in-law are at 35. And so it's very difficult to compare your journey at 35 and say, I'm so far behind. Well, yeah, you're so far behind your parents at 60, but where were your parents at 35? And I would imagine that they're actually in very similar boats. So that's where my mind goes with it. David, what's your initial gut thought?
I think when people share their experiences, it's exactly that. It's their experience. And there is no one path or blueprint to get to the destination that you're hoping to get to. I just keep thinking about, my journey and my career. And I'm thinking that if I told, 100 people what I did and what I had to go through in order to get to where I am today, I bet you those 100 people could go out and do the same thing, and maybe one or two of them would be in the same exact position as me. But I realize that there's a bunch of luck that went into it. There's a bunch of sort of external circumstances that played out that got me to a different place that might get people to another. So yeah, I think that video is really impactful. I think the heart of the message is there. I don't know if I agree with every single word that person said.
So Matthew, if I heard it right, essentially he's saying don't listen to the experts that have forgotten what it was like to be young, broke, and hungry. And it sounds like they're going after the Gary Vee mentality where he says hustle, hustle, hustle. And gurus, if you want to call them that have made it are now saying, well, hustle is overrated. It's more important to be strategic and, take time to reflect. Is that where you're going with this, or are you taking this a slightly different direction?
I think it just, if you look at a lot of really successful people and they kind of give their advice out on their daily routines and what they do, it's not everyone's like this. I'm kind of categorizing more of the tech bro type mentality, but it's like, hey, I wake up, I do my jujitsu, then I have my ice bath, I meditate for this time, then I schedule no meetings before noon. I make sure I'm done and checked out by 5. I put my phone to the side. I have my family time. And it's like, this is what you need to do to be successful, to be in the right space of mind. When that does work for them where they are right now, but that's not what got them to where they are. They actually had very little work-life balance. They woke up, they worked because they needed money. They didn't have time to do their ice baths and all these things and check out exactly at 5 p.m. because they were in kind of that hustle mode where they had to make their business work. And that's what got them to where they are now. But now that they've achieved that success, now they have the space and ability to really focus on their mental health and all these other things. And so they're preaching this when in reality, that's not what got them there. It's the hard work for endless hours that got them there. But now they're kind of teaching a different method because they've achieved success and now they're able to do that. But they're teaching it as if that's what you need to do now. I don't know, I've just seen a lot of, yeah, sorry, go there, David.
Let me jump on this because I don't know. Cause if I look back at David when he was in his early 20s, when he was puking up, whiskey, I feel that, by the way, that will not make sense unless we put that previous,
I'm even in his 20s, raging alcoholic.
When I think back to my 20s and, I did what I thought I needed to do in order to, make a living, become successful, figure out where I want to go. I almost look back and the advice that I would give David in his early 20s would be completely different from the actions that I actually took to get to where I am today. And I would actually go back and say, make sure that you prioritize relationships and friendships a little bit more because, it took me 7-8 years to realize how important those are. And maybe if I, built those relationships earlier, it would have gotten me to where I am today a lot faster and maybe a lot more pleasantly. And so I agree with you, Matthew. There may be some sort of dissonance as far as what people are saying, giving advice to younger people and it being different from how they got there. But I also think a lot of that comes from just age and experience too. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think you're spot on in terms of if you go to really people at the end of life and you ask them, what would you do differently and what are you glad you did in life? The answers typically come back, I wish I had spent more time on relationships. I think
end of life.
end of life. I think overwhelmingly, if you ask older people, so not just someone who's been successful saying what you would tell their younger self, but just older people in general, knowing what you know about life at the age of 80, 90, how, whatever old age might mean, they overwhelmingly come back with two things. I wish I had spent more time on relationships, and I wish I had prioritized my health, because those two things you can't really shortcut. And if you didn't do the work on your health, then the last decade or two can be pretty miserable in terms of pain. So I think that advice definitely holds true. But David, telling yourself in your 20s to have more, spent more time on relationships, that may have changed your world for certainly in the better in regards to your relationships, but you may not have been as successful in the business. You may have been more. It's always hard to know because it's not always one variable that changes everything. But yeah, that's where my mind goes when we throw out that discussion.
Yeah. How about you, Matthew?
Yeah, no, I think it's probably like most things, it's a little bit of a mixture of both. And also, like Caleb said, you can never go back, change those variables and see where you would have ended up. It's kind of an unknown equation. But it is just interesting to see that a lot of times, like the liberties and time that we have and what we invest our time in now, we're only able to do because we got to a certain stage in business where the person starting out doesn't have all that time and luxury to do that. And so while going in the hot tub every morning might help Caleb clear his mind, if someone's struggling to pay their rent and trying to get their business started, that's probably not something they're going to be able to do. They probably have to wake up and get straight to it type thing. So it's where you are now does change what you do or what you used to do, but it's not always, I don't know. I think it's a little bit of both. Definitely a little bit of both. I don't have a great answer to it. I was curious what your guys' thoughts were after.
There's a phrase, I think there was a whole book written on the concept of what got you here will not get you there. And so, and we're feeling this because we sold a business. I've talked to friends that have sold businesses, and the mindset changes when you're growing something. It's about offense, and there's fun in knowing, and there's the challenge of growing something and knowing that it's working and seeing those results continue to climb every year. The minute you sell it, you think your life is easy and better, and in a lot of ways it is, but now you have to switch, and now you're concerned with, I don't want to lose this money that I've had. And I think that mindset happens in whether you're selling your entity or whether you've become successful, whatever that is. I think that does change. So what got you here, maybe the hustle, the grit, the determination, won't get you there, which is now more about relationships and strategies and reflection. And certainly imitation helps. If we see someone else that's been very successful say, hey, slowing down is really impactful for me and implementing these habits, I think it's worth pondering and considering. But ultimately, it's up to you to decide if that fits your life. I think, Matthew, you hit it on the head. That's their experience. And so if we share our advice to people younger than us or older than us, but earlier on the venture of tech, for example, we can share what worked for us and what didn't. They can decide to take that on and adopt those habits. But again, those are just our experiences. Will they 100% work for the person we're telling them to? No. But it's just a directional accuracy. David, you're up. What do you got for us?
All right. What do you guys want to hear?
We've talked traction a lot, so let's save that.
Okay.
Let's talk Costco. You've got a note about Costco's employment strategies.
Okay. You guys may or may not know, but I am obsessed with Costco. I love Costco. So you may not know this, but I have been a member of Costco longer than I've been a citizen of the U.S. Like I kid you not. I've been a Costco member longer than I've been a U.S. citizen. And I just love the company. And every time I go there, it's just like, it's such a positive experience. Have you guys ever noticed the name tags on all the Costco employees? It says how long they've been working there.
No.
I don't think I've noticed that before.
Okay, so next time you go to Costco, take a look at the people working there and look at their name tag, and it'll tell you the year that they started working there. And I remember when I first started going to Costco, it was pretty common to see people who had been working there since the 90s, and this was like in the mid 2010s that I would be going. And so they'd been working at Costco for quite some time, and I was like thinking, in a time of such high turnover, how is it that Costco is able to keep these motivated people employed. And, Costco is one of the largest retailers in the world, and they have one of the lowest turnover rates. And so I did a little bit of digging recently about how that all works, how that all pieces together.
It's got to be the hot dogs.
It's the $1.50
190 million last year.
190 million hot dogs?
190 million hot dog combos across Costco for the year 2023.
I forget where, but I think I read an article talking about the old CEO and how he was planning on raising the price of hot dogs, and the founder of Costco was like, pretty much like, if you change the price of the hot dog, I will kill you. Like, don't change the price.
I did hear that, and just for perspective, I think they were talking about raising it a quarter, so from $1.50 to $1.75. Probably not meaningful, but on 190 million units sold, that'd be $475 million of pure profit added to the company.
That's insane. All right, so going back to the employees. All right, so here are a couple interesting things. So Costco doesn't really hire, most of the year. The best time to apply, I found, is September, right before their seasonal rush. And so they get thousands and thousands of applicants for a handful of positions every year. And so if you're one of the lucky, 100 or 200 people that they hire for that store during the season, you work mostly on a part-time basis throughout the holidays. So a couple of unique things. When you're hired on at Costco, everyone starts off as part-time. You don't get a full-time position at Costco. Did you guys know that?
No.
Okay. So when you're hired on as a part-time employee. Costco in many ways sees full-time employment as a promotion in and of itself. And so if you're performing, if you've been there, if you prove yourself, then you can move to full-time. Now, let's just say you're a part-time seasonal employee at Costco. After the season ends, out of all those hundreds of people, they typically select like between 1 and 10 people to stay on. So it's like a very, very small percentage of the overall people that, work seasonal. And so there's this entire like sort of structure of filtering down to the best that they have at Costco. And of course, this only works because they have so many people interested in working at Costco. Why are they interested in working at Costco? Well, they've got a couple of sweet perks. Number one, if you're an employee there, you get a free membership. And it's not only just a free membership, you get a free executive membership, which means you get 2% back on all your purchases.
So it's a $120 membership and 2% back.
Yeah, 2% back.
Yeah, you haven't persuaded me to work there. What else do I
do? Right. That's not too persuasive yet.
You get special shopping hours. And so you get to shop before or after the store opens and closes. So there are no other customers there. And you oftentimes get first dibs at like the best deals, right? Because like they're marking down prices at the end of the day, and then you just so happen to see that deal and you get first pick. All right. If that wasn't incentive enough, if you're scheduled to work on Sunday, they consider Sundays a special day and they pay you 1.5 times your pay. So if you're making, let's just say $25 an hour on Sundays, you're making an extra $12.50 an hour. So what is that? $37.50?
So basically overtime, right? Time and a half.
Yeah, Sunday. Time and a half. Yeah. All right. In addition to that, every 2 years, or it's like based on hours, every 2 years, you're guaranteed a $1.50 raise, which doesn't sound like much, but their pay is high to start off with. And then after 5 years, you're eligible for bonuses. And that bonus is, I think, $2,000 every 6 months. So you get, or like $2,500 every 6 months. So you get an extra $5,000. Plus they have health benefits. Plus, they have all the other regular benefits that a large company can have, and they don't require any degrees, right? And so, like, oftentimes when you go to Costco and you see that cashier and they're smiling as they're checking you out, they're really fast and efficient. The reason why is if you're a cashier at Costco, you get $1 pay differential for being a cashier. That's like a really coveted position at Costco. Plus, if it's a Sunday, they're getting paid time and a half too. So it's just like, it's a win-win-win. And so, like, when you go to Costco and you look at the employees and they're all happy, the reason why is because just Costco is a great place to work. And just full disclaimer, I I am a shareholder of Costco. I put a huge chunk of my retirement into Costco. I'm a bag holder.
Well, I'm going to start going on Sundays then, because if they're going to be 50% happier to be working on Sundays, assuming money is correlated to happiness, then I would love to see that. Although one of the most important perks of being self-employed, having freedom over your time, is you get to go places when it's not busy. So when I lived in Colorado, that meant going to the mountains on a Tuesday and Wednesday instead of Friday, Saturday, Sunday with everybody else. It also means going to the golf course on with all the retired people, because you're not going on the weekend when tee times takes 6 hours for a 4-hour round of golf. And so just like that, when I go to Costco, I don't go on Saturday because it is busy and I don't like that many people with oversized carts getting in my way. So I go when it is not as cramped. Those are my Costco
fan would know. True Costco fan would know. Friday nights and Saturday nights are the best times to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny. Joy was just telling me the other day, we both said we like some of the stuff Costco sells better than Sam's Club, but Costco gives us way more anxiety because it's always so packed. And Sam's Club's like nice and relaxing, and there's no one at the checkout lines, and they have scan and go with your phone. And I love Sam's Club, but I do like the stuff at Costco better most of the time. Sam's Club does have way better prices every day of the week on meat, though. So if you need meat, go to Sam's Club.
And they just opened
go to Costco.
They just opened a Costco in Queen Creek, right?
Yes, they did. Yeah,
I've seen that.
Yep, and they did pretty well, I believe, their opening day. I forget. One of the employees told me, I forget what it was now, but they broke one of the Costco records on opening day, which was pretty cool.
Have you guys ever gone to the Costco subreddit?
No.
There's an entire subreddit dedicated to Costco, and I think there's like something crazy. Let me look it up real quick because it actually is crazy. So the Costco subreddit has 538,000 followers, 500,000 people on that subreddit.
Wow.
If that isn't reason enough to just love Costco, I don't know what is. And they have the craziest posts on there too. Like they talk about like all the different food courts internationally, because at an American Costco, you've got the slices of pizza, the whole pizzas. They have the churros, or actually, they just replaced the churros with a 750 calorie cookie. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
No.
Yeah, they just replaced the churros with cookies. They have the hot dogs, but internationally, they have like pizzas with Korean stir-fry beef. They have like all sorts of like handheld beef pies and all sorts of crazy stuff. So anyway, if you guys are ever bored and want to kill time, go onto the Costco subreddit. It's awesome.
I dig it.
Well,
all right, guys,
cool.
I'm up next. Do we want to talk about the value in going deep or 15 minutes a day experiment?
I want to hear about the 15-day or 15-minute a day experiment.
Yeah, let's
sounds
go
like
there.
It's somewhat related to habits.
That's kind of the goal. We want to be tangential to habits. So 15 minutes a day experiment. This is how I'm going to gain 22 hours of a new skill every 90 days. So 15 minutes a day does not sound like much. I know most of us fritter that away multiple times over on social media. You may, I don't know what other random habits you have, but making your morning cup of coffee or whatnot. But what I wanted to do was implement tiny habits into my routines. So I've not read the book yet, but BJ Fogg wrote a book. I think it's called Tiny Habits. And one of the main goals is don't do anything drastic. Like don't go from I'm sitting on my couch every day to I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week. That is, we talked about that in our habits, New Year's resolutions. That is not going to be sustainable. So how do you do something small that compounds and it eventually becomes something meaningful? I said, look, 15 minutes a day. I stole this idea from Jesse Itzler. And so he does, one big crazy event every year. I think he does like 6 mini adventures every other month. He does something on a weekend. And then he's trying to learn some sort of a new skill every 90 days. And I said, let's do 15 minutes a day. I can commit to that. Well, 15 minutes a day times 90 days is a little over 22 hours dedicated to something, which is half of a normal work week. So what I'm doing, Q1, quarter one, for those that don't know the business lingo, is I am writing for 15 minutes a day. And that could be in my journal. Usually it's on my computer. I have a notes app and I've just got every day scheduled out. I set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes and I sit down and just go. And sometimes I know the topic before I get into it. Sometimes I don't. I merely just start writing. And I'm not trying to go and get all the grammar exactly right or the punctuation exactly right. I'm simply trying to stream of conscious write. And I've read up on this. I've talked to people that have done it. David Perel has a writing course. I follow a guy named Tim Denning that does one. Maybe I'll sign up for his at some point. But the main goal is if you do something, and I would say I'm a B- writer. I'm okay. I'm not great. But if you do something regularly every single day, then by all means, you are going to get better at it, unless you're doing it terribly or incorrectly. But that process of corralling my thoughts, putting them on paper, I think is going to make me a better person 90 days from now than when I started. Here's where it gets interesting. I think I was 9 out of 10 days to start, and then it slipped up. I had some friends over for the weekends. We stayed up late every night. I missed my habit over the weekends. And then I sort of sat down and said, all right, am I going to be fragile? And if I miss a couple days, am I done? Well, the answer is no, because I still see the value in it. And so what I want to do is say, hey, if I do this even 5 days a week, just on the weekdays, I make my coffee, the kids aren't awake yet, my wife's still in bed, I can easily have 15 minutes before I jump into email, before I jump into my regular day. And that's what I've been doing. And 15 minutes, 5 days a week for 90 days is still 16 hours of new skills. So that's what I'm testing. Me being a future-oriented individual, I'm mostly excited about what I'm going to do Q2, Q3. And they can be fun things. I might want to figure out how to make the best cup of coffee. And that'll be my pursuit, 15 minutes a day of research or calling people or interviewing people and just trying to learn what makes that. It doesn't have to be a skill. It doesn't have to be, making the world a better place. It could just be following a curiosity. So that is my 15-minute a day experiment. And we'll see how it goes. And I'll report back on some findings as we go.
It's really funny you brought that up. I was just about to ask you, do you already know what you want to do next for your next quarter? But yeah, that's pretty cool. So you've switched it then from 7 days to 5 days a week is your goal, and you'll get more if you can?
I'm not somebody that's super disciplined. And so what I do is I have this written out. I'm going to miss some days, and that's okay. I'm not trying to hold myself. In fact, I wrote a post called "Perfection is not the standard." But yeah, my goal is I want to see how my writing will evolve. I know that having better writing skills means I will think better, means I can communicate better, and that some of those soft skills really differentiate you in the world. And so I just want to see how my writing is going to evolve. Will it get sharper, more succinct? Will it get more flowery and colorful? Am I going to change my habits and outline before I get started, or just trust my stream of consciousness? So those are some questions I have, and we'll see what that turns into.
Where'd you post it? Is it on your personal blog?
So I'm not posting every post there because I haven't refined them, and maybe I'm trying not to say should as much this year. Maybe I ought to. Maybe I want to do that. Right now, I use an app called Reflect, and I've got them all written out as daily posts in Reflect, and so I can click on them. They're kind of made for social or for blogging. I mean, the titles are immediate feedback, evidence of growth, why NAB, you need a board, flexibility versus consistency, cultivating an environment, who's walking whom. That was a bit of a diatribe with my puppy and some thoughts I had while walking through the freezing cold. So yeah, maybe I'll just post them all. I don't know that anybody would really care, but I'm curious to see if I will become a better writer and what I'll learn about myself by 15 minutes a day. It's not a huge commitment, but I think the results will be fascinating to look at.
Are you using any resources to improve your writing? I know there are a couple of books on writing. I have one sitting on my shelf. It's called On Writing Well. And I know Stephen King has a book on writing as well.
I'm not, although part of my curiosity could be relative to it. So I would allow myself to not write one day and spend those 15 minutes researching or watching YouTube videos. I'm not trying to be purist or extremely regimented. The idea is, can I improve writing skills? And this may not work for every skill. If I wanted to study Spanish, 15 minutes at a time may not be enough to, get the neural networks firing properly or actually, grow much more than a little bit of basic vocab. Maybe it would, I don't know. But I'm curious to see what kind of skills I can augment, or what kind of curiosities I can scratch every quarter. And I'm not tied to 90 days. It might turn into 60 days because I want to do 6 of these a year, not just 4.
I like that whole philosophy, though. Everyone can commit to 15 minutes a day. It's not a huge time commitment. You could put down your phone for 15 minutes because I guarantee you, like you said, everyone spends way more than that on social media on the typical day. And it is fun. Like you said, you can commit to something, you get the benefit of sticking something out for 90 days, but also the benefit of being able to switch your focus for not too long. It's not like you're committing for an entire year. It's just a quarter. Then you can switch to something fun. You can think about it first quarter and figure out what you're going to do the second quarter. I like that a lot. Probably do something like that. Try and think of something good for Q2 to do 15 minutes a day of. It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, start now. Like, there's no reason to wait till April 1st, right? We got February 1st around the corner. Find something for 60 days. So David or Matthew,
go ahead.
I was going to say, do either of you have a thought on a habit or a curiosity you'd want to pursue for 60 or 90 days at a time?
Welding.
You've mentioned
welding.
I'm
going to learn how to weld. Yeah, I'm going to learn how to weld this year.
You really should go to the General Air free welding class they have every week.
Yeah, no, that's the one I was looking at. The only issue is I actually donated all my jeans, and the only types of pants I have on now are like these polyester stretchy pants. And apparently you cannot wear those because they'll catch on fire as you weld.
They'll melt,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. I'll need to go out and buy some jeans before I do that. But I've been really curious about like TIG and MIG welding and like all of this stuff in it. Like, I don't know how Instagram knows, but I started getting videos on welding too, and just like this guy who goes around rating all the different types of welds, and he'll like give it a pass.
Oh yeah, I get those videos too,
dude. It's so funny, like how social media or like these algorithms, they just know what's.
I know you're talking about the guy that goes like, "How many dollars an hour do you think this weld is worth?" type thing, and you're like,
"There's that guy." There's that guy, and then there's a guy who like, for example, he went to Disney World and he like,
oh yeah, he looks like the bars and like the roller coasters, and he's like, who the heck did this one?
Yeah, yeah.
That guy's funny too.
I'm gonna learn. So a couple of things I want to. So 15 minutes. Is it a day? 15 minutes a day? I don't know.
15 minutes a day, and you could do it. I guess you could stack it. Essentially, that's an hour a work week, or a little over an hour, or almost 2 hours a week. So if you wanted to
ask you guys, all right, let me ask you this, Caleb. Do you think it's what do you think the difference is between like doing 15 minutes a day versus just obsessing over it for 2 weeks and just pouring into it for 2 weeks? What do you think is more effective, and what's the pros and cons to both?
It probably depends on what skill you're looking to acquire. So certain things, again, have a bit of a learning curve or the ability to stop what you're doing. So if I'm deep in thought and doing a project and then snap out of it and don't give myself a break to let my brain reset, that next 15 minutes is probably not going to be as beneficial as if it's early in the day before my mind has started to run crazy. So I think it probably, and maybe it's a cop-out answer, but it probably depends on the habit that you're looking to add. I think there's certain things that do compound over time. You know, a curiosity of trying to figure out the best cup of coffee might be better off cramming that into 2 weeks and doing all the research and doing all the samples and meeting with local coffee roasters and coffee shop owners would probably be the best bet there. Writing, I'm a different person day to day, and it can also be frustrating to try and write for 4 hours straight. So I think the idea of 15 minutes is not intimidating. Even if I suck for 15 minutes, it's over quickly. Even like going to the gym for 15 minutes a day I think there's some gains to be had. Would you be better off? So that's one that would be better off for 90 days. I think 15 minutes a day, 90 days in a row for weight training or cardio even is probably better off than 2 weeks of just chaotic lifting, because you're going to abuse your body. So some things are going to do better to let there be some breath and time in between versus going all out.
Interesting. Any thoughts, Matthew? Takes on that?
No, I agree. I think it probably does depend on the habit you're pursuing, with whether it makes more sense to go all out on it. And also, what's the purpose of learning it? Like, if you go all out on welding for 2 weeks, was your goal just to learn it and be done with it? Or is your goal to like figure out some applicable way to apply it? Or it might be better if you spread it out over 90 days or even longer than that. But if your goal is just to learn it because you've always wanted to say you've learned how to weld and then you're done with it, then maybe it is better to do a 2-week intensive class at General Air for 6 hours a day, learn it, and then you kind of have that skill set and you go on and do something else after that.
For me, it's not even like that I care about welding. It's more so like, haven't you guys ever seen 2 pieces of metal and been like, I really want to combine these 2 pieces together?
David, the thought that crossed your mind,
sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know that that's crossed my mind.
That's like such a masculine thing, isn't it? It's just like these 2 pieces of steel. I want to be able to combine them forever. like permanently.
Have you heard of duct tape?
Duct tape in itself, I feel like I can devote 90 days to duct tape, but welding, I'm really interested in. And then the other thing that I've been really interested in is like concrete. Like, have you guys seen these videos of like people pouring concrete? It's just like it's an art as much as it is a skill.
I have not. I think our TikTok feeds are vastly different. Let me ask you this though,
I'm on
David.
the same track as David. I'm getting these videos.
When you're thinking about a skill like welding, is this something you're just fascinated by and you want to go down the rabbit hole and then sort of scratch that itch? Or is this something that you hope to then have that skill in your tool bag for the rest of your life?
I mean, both, right? For me, like my entire life.
What's the primary driver though?
Just chasing curiosity. It's the same reason why I got my motorcycle endorsement and have never ridden a motorcycle afterwards. It's the same reason why I was getting my private pilot's license and have not flown a plane afterwards. It's just scratching that itch, right? And I feel like I don't know. I have this strong drive to just like explore and just I don't know. Just like it's interesting, right? That's my Roman Empire, right? Just like random things that show up on my feed. I think about it all the time.
Well, I think there's beauty in it. Even if you go down that path for 2 weeks of the immersion process or 90 days of 15 minutes a day, whatever that may be, if you decide that it's not for you, at least you know, and that question is no longer circulating in your head going, would I love to be a pilot? Would I love to be a welder? You've now answered that question once and for all and said, you know what? David does not enjoy welding and this is not for me. And so I don't want to go buy more jeans. I'm out. And now that doesn't come back up again, because the next time that pops into your head, you go, hey, I tried it. It's not for me. And now I can try the next thing on my list.
I also think, yes, everything you just said, I agree with 100%. And I'm just like, we have one life, right? Assuming we don't believe in reincarnation. It's just like, we have this one life and I just want to experience all the different things that there is to experience in this life. And like, it's like, who would want to live life without having welded something? I think it's just like, I think it's pretty common sense that like you'd want to weld something in your life.
I know what I'm going to get you for your birthday, David.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bracelet that says WWWD. What would welders do? Because if you're going to go down this path, you need to start identifying as a welder. And you need to understand what would a welder do and apply that philosophy to everything else that David does.
So I actually don't believe in labels. So like, as you were saying, like, what would a welder do, this and that? And it's just like,
you don't want to identify.
I'm not a welder. No, I don't believe in labels like that. Like I don't believe in like identifying yourself as a welder or as a businessman. It's just like, no, my name is David and I can weld and I know how to do business and I know how to fly and I know how to ride motorcycles. It's like the label doesn't make me. It's like I don't know what I'm even trying. This
you make the label
hard. Yeah, David is the label.
I am the label. Exactly.
I am the one who knocks.
Exactly. Where is that from?
That is a Breaking Bad quote.
Okay.
No, I like that. I think you should definitely do that welding thing. Almost like one of our very first episode we did with Mike McCarthy, right? When he said he's always wanted to sail and that was his goal, is to sail. It's like, you've always wanted to weld, you got to weld. You got to figure it out somehow. So, just put it on the list to get started.
Mike had a trip booked end of 2023. He was going to check that off his bucket list. And I believe they got sick or someone else got COVID. Something happened and they didn't go. But he did call me for an accountability update and told me it's on the books for 2024. So he is still going to do it. He's still going to scratch that itch. And I think there's something to it. If you have to do something, it keeps popping back up over and over and over. If it's a recurring theme, then like you said, David, we get one life. You owe it to yourself to try. Because again, Charlie Munger, I'll rephrase this because we said it before. At the end of his life, he just passed away at 99 years old. He wasn't sitting there going, I wish I had made more money, or I wish I had spent more time investing or put more money in crypto or Apple. He said, I wish I had caught a 200-pound tuna when I was young enough and strong enough to reel it in. Because at this age, I cannot fight that fish by myself. So it's about those experiences. It's about doing something when you have the strength and when it's appropriate to do it. And again, if it's not for you, fine. At least you know that, and you won't get to your deathbed and have a regret about never welding. Because I can imagine coming if you don't do this, where, sitting on your deathbed, living a long, beautiful life with, lots of kids and grandkids and whatever else you wish to accomplish. And I would just hate to hear you say, I wish I had gone to that welding class.
Yeah. How can we make this a reality? Matthew, the owner of General Air. Do you want to
I can get you set up with a class?
Yeah, get me set up.
Or the guy actually in charge of the weld school I could message too.
Dude,
but yeah, no, you can
hold
definitely
me
get set up.
accountable.
I remember you and me talked about welding. I want to say it was like at least 2-3 years ago, if not more than that. You'd mentioned an interest in welding.
This has been in your head for a while.
I know this has been a reoccurring theme because you and I talked about this a long time ago. I remember that.
Yeah, dude, I've been obsessed with welding. Even though I don't know like anything about it besides like the different types of welds, I'm like, dude, welding just seems so cool. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like the coolest thing ever. It's like Costco. I'm just obsessed over this.
Costco and welding. Well, David, since it's been on your mind 3 years, you must do it. And when you do, I do want to live vicariously through you, because I, unlike you, have never looked at two pieces of metal and wondered how could we form a more perfect union of these two. I've just said, cool, that's a hunk of copper and a hunk of, maybe that's steel. I don't even know.
Okay. I've got a new goal, guys, for this year. I'm getting married later this year, and I want to weld something. I don't know what it's going to be. It'll be a secret, and it'll be a part of my wedding in some way. Okay?
Yes.
And when you guys come, I want you guys to try to figure out what I welded. It may be the seat you're sitting on. It may be the fork you're eating off of. It may be the arch that I got married under. But
if you come out in a coat of armor, I'm going to be delighted.
That may be a possibility too. I'm not going to rule anything out, okay?
Just picture an arch breaking mid-service.
Oh, God.
Man, I should have done more than 15 minutes a day.
What do they say? 15 minutes could save you 15% or more in car insurance. David, you might have wished you had spent more than 15 minutes on your weld job.
Yeah. Well, to be determined, guys, and I'll make that a new goal. And here in a couple of months, you'll have the burden of figuring out what I welded.
We look forward to following that journey.
All right. I think we have time for one last topic, and then
let's do one last segment.
I can do something funny real fast.
Let's do it.
I got a text message last night from our good friend Avery, and he sent me a screenshot of a text he got, which is, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's like my face on here. And someone messaged Avery. They're like, hey, I went to buy some random pair of socks on Amazon, and Matthew's face popped up on the video while reviewing the socks. He's like, is that actually him? He's like, I wonder how much money he makes off these things, which is one of the things I had written down as the easiest money I made in 2023 was the Amazon influencer program. Oh, that was so funny. Someone was buying a random pair of socks and recognized my face pop up as the sponsored video advertising the pair of socks on Amazon.
How many videos have you done at this point?
I haven't made a video for 3 months now. So 4 months, maybe. I don't know. It's been a while. There's another. So I think total on my account, I probably have 140 videos. Granted, a lot of these are like 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute. They're not like crazy long videos. But I knocked majority, I would say 90%, 80% of those videos I knocked out in like a 2-week period, if not less than that. And those are still making money every single month. And it's one of the things that I kind of put earlier in my notes on here is that just focus on one thing for an extended period of time. You have the compound effect. I think this last year, one of the things I did poorly, which is something I've talked about for a long time, even when we're back doing Scout IQ, is just focusing on too many different things at the same time. And then you get down the road and you realize something's compounding. You're like, hey, if I just stuck with this and did a little bit longer, if it's compounding now, imagine what it would be if I had stuck that out for 7 months type thing. But for those that have not heard of the Amazon Influencer Program, just a quick little rundown for you. You can just type in Amazon Influencer Program and you can apply online. You need to have somewhat of a following. They don't give you a huge guideline of what that means. It'll randomly accept some people and randomly reject some people. But in general, if you apply with YouTube or Instagram, try and have a couple thousand followers. It's technically against their terms of service to buy followers, but I'm not convinced they would know if you did. So that's up to each individual person what they want to do with their following. But if you apply to it, you make 3 review videos of just random products on Amazon. You don't even have to have bought them from Amazon. You can buy them anywhere as long as they're sold on Amazon. You make 3 videos, you post them. Amazon will manually review those videos. As long as they're up to their terms of service, you can be approved for monetization. And then those videos show up on the product page on Amazon. So if you scroll through a product on Amazon to the very last image, it's normally a video. And that's going to be a sponsored video by someone that made a review on the product. If someone watches that and then buys it, you get a percentage of the profit from that sale. And so you have these videos all across Amazon. This is a somewhat newer program, even though it's been around for a couple of years. And there's how many hundreds of millions of products in Amazon. Very few products have videos for them. A ton of products have no videos. And so it's pretty easy to get your videos out there. So anyways, I spent like 2 weeks. I made, like I said, 130, 140-ish videos I have on my account. And it's consistently between $1,000 to $2,000 a month, every single month coming through just from those videos. So I think 2023, I started in like May or April, it was like $15,000 for 2023. And it's still going on this year. And like I said, I haven't posted a video for a long time now. But I was looking through my Amazon purchases and I was like, I probably have a good like 80 purchases I could probably review that I've done in the past like 4 months. And so I'm like, hey, if I spent 2 weeks doing that a while ago and it's made this much, it's probably worth spending a little bit more time doing that. But that was a fun little side thing I did in 2023. And for those of you that haven't heard of it, definitely check it out. It sucks if you don't get approved, but if you do get approved, it's a great side way to make money, because you're already buying stuff on Amazon anyway. So
that's some
and
good
you'll get
money
random
right
texts
there.
of people finding your reviews for buying socks on Amazon. So
Matthew, your 15 minutes a day could be spent recording 1 to 2 to 3 videos, because they don't take a lot.
I could easily do 3 videos in a 15-minute time span. Like I do one take videos with my phone. I'm not like setting up professional camera equipment and editing. I turn on my phone, I do a one take thing. Even if I mess up, I just do one take and then I upload that. And those videos tend to do better than the more published, polished videos anyways.
I think that's a perfect implementation of the 15 minutes a day.
It's not a bad idea. It's 60 days left in Q1. Make 180 videos, something like that.
And again,
you can make 130
things
more.
that compound, assuming the program continues, that's something that's going to continue to compound, because that work you did for 2 weeks back in the summer is still paying dividends today. And imagine if that continues to grow and compounds, you could just quit the podcast, because you wouldn't need the crazy revenue that we're driving already on here.
I know, all this crazy revenue from the podcast, wouldn't need it anymore.
And for those that don't understand the humor, we are pre-revenue on the podcast, meaning we have not made a penny.
Matthew, did you show your feet in the socks video? Like, or were you just holding up the socks?
It was mostly just my feet, actually. I barely even mentioned the socks. I just wiggled my toes for a little while and talked about the socks, and that's just it's made about $14,000 to $15,000 just from that video. So
the Amazon influencer program, the OnlyFans of the Amazon world.
No, guys, there's this website called feetfinders.com.
Oh boy,
Matthew, you should upload that video onto Feet Finders. I feel like you can make a ton of money, like maybe even more than
it's not already on Feet Finders, David.
Dude, brilliant.
But yeah, so I think overall there's some good random thoughts this episode. I think we had some good habits brought into there. Some earlier videos where we can get canceled by. I think overall is a good random episode to tie things up with. So,
well, again, ultimately, you as the consumer, as the listener, get to decide. So you get to vote with your likes and subscribes and everything else. So if you like this format, let us know. Leave a review, mention the specific random show, or text us, email us. You can hit us up, info@stackinghabits.com, Instagram, Stacking Habits Podcast. We still don't have a lot of listens, and it's surprising in some ways. I've actually had a few guests that said, man, I would assume your show has thousands of listens just due to the quality of it. So that means a lot. It's a nice compliment. And I do get probably at least 2 to 3 texts a week from people listening to the show that say, hey, I'm so glad you're doing this. So for those people, we will continue to do it. But if you like the specific format, let us know, drop us a line. Ultimately, we're going to keep scratching our itch about habits and sharing this with you. And we're going to keep exploring and tinkering with the formats in terms of how this shows up. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we drop some more truth bombs at the end. Like we said, my whiskey glass is empty at this point. And Matthew, you had a Law's whiskey glass as well, right? Did I see the logo?
I did have a Law's whiskey glass.
Yes.
Yeah, glass as well.
So we did a tour with Al Laws and crew. So thank you for having us in Denver. And with that, we will sign off. So thanks for being a part of Stacking Habits, and we will catch you again very soon.